What is up, hammerheads? Welcome back to the forge. Today we're forging a hot dog fork again. Stay tuned. Alright guys, so got a couple of quick announcements before we get started. First and foremost, check out the affiliate links in the description for my affiliates. Sorry, mine went blank. Also, check out my Etsy shop. A lot of our products will go on Etsy, or a lot of the products will end up on my Whatnot auction. And if you sign up with the Whatnot auction, you get $15 through my link. You'll get $10 up front, and then you will get an extra $5 after you make your first purchase. So check all those things out, guys. Really cool affiliates that we have. Also check out my sponsor, the Knife Shop and Survival Outpost, if you're ever in Ottawa, Tennessee. Big announcement. I will not have any more videos through the month of May. I'm trying to get everything together for Blade Show and trying to get everything together for an event that I'm doing, and it's just too much for me to try to get everything done and making videos by myself. So until after Blade Show, which will be June 8th is the day that I come home, that Saturday, videos will not happen up until that day. I'll have a video load for the day after Blade Show, and the day that I leave Blade Show, it'll be coming up on a project. And then I'll also have some footage, YouTube shorts and stuff at Blade Show while I'm there. I will continue to be doing YouTube shorts, just showing you what I'm working on and projects leading up to Blade Show. And once I get there, like I said, I'll have a lot of YouTube shorts, meeting people and doing some showing their tables and kind of talking about the stuff that they have, or just showing it off if it's too loud. Also, if you sign up with Whatnot, I will be going live from Blade Show Friday and Saturday and walking around different areas and showing some stuff for a few minutes. I probably won't run super long because it kind of makes me motion sickness walking around with my phone like that, and I know it probably bothers other people too. But I think it'll be really cool walking around letting y'all see actually what's happening at Blade Show. So I'll probably do the big room that I'm in on Friday, and then on Saturday I'll try to sneak over and do the other room and kind of show y'all what's going on there. I'll have some stuff in the buy it now, but I really won't be auctioning anything off. So that is the announcements that we got. Also, I will tell you what table I'm on here in just a second. It'll pop up on the screen. But other than that, guys, thank y'all, and time for the video. See ya. Okay. All right, guys, so we're using 1/4 inch round bar, and we're gonna put a couple inches off of the anvil because we're gonna be doing an eye bolt. And I am just making a 90-degree bend. Hard to do with the camera. Let me grab my measure and I'll tell you exactly how much I bent over the edge. So I bent about 3.5 inches over the edge, okay? And the reason why I did that is because when I make the eye bolt, and I'll go ahead and admit, guys, when I make an eye bolt, I get it right probably 3 out of 10 times where it's perfect. But whenever I make the eye bolt, we bend it back and then we're gonna roll it over on itself over the horn. All right, guys, so I'm coming over the horn of the anvil. We'll go about here, and then I'm just gonna start hammering it around. Make sure everything stays good and straight, but work your way down the anvil, the horn, until you start making this C shape, and then you're gonna flip it over and start hammering back towards yourself. Make something like that right there. Now from here, if you want to start closing it up more, just slowly tap it and then keep working it around your anvil. Or around your horn. I apologize, guys. I think I'm going to leave it a little open like that. I like that design. Straighten everything up. Now I'm going to quench this, and now we're going to work on the other end. Alright guys, so we're going to flatten about 3 inches of our material. So I'm going to move over here on my anvil and find about 3 inches, which is right there, because it's a double horned anvil. And I'm going to make a small mark so I know I'm flattening that much material. Now you can do this with a center punch. You can do this with just about anything, and you can actually go more than 3 inches. You can make your tines about as big as you want them to be. But I wouldn't go more than probably 4 inches, maybe 5 inches, just because they could get weak when they're going over the fire, because they're going to be a little thin. So I'm going 3 inches for the tines. And now I'm going to flatten it, and then we're going to cut it on the bandsaw. If you don't have a bandsaw, you can use a chisel, if you or a hacksaw, but try to cut as center as possible when you go to cut, guys. Alright, so I'm going to flip it over. I'm going to find where that mark is. Right there. Now I'm just going to flatten this material out and make it wider. So I'm just going to draw it out wider a little bit. But I need to keep some meat there because we are going to be forging some tines out of this. Alright, so I'm going to stop right there. So we're just flattening that area. Now, I'm going to let it cool down in a kneel. Sometimes even with mild steel, you can still kind of get a little hardness to it and it won't cut good. So just let it cool down. It'll only take a couple minutes. Once it loses all of its color and is really getting somewhat cool to get close to, then just cool down the rest of it, just cool to touch. As we've done in past videos, guys. Just straightening everything up. Okay guys, so I'm using my Hardy tool to open up these tines. If you don't have a Hardy tool, just heat it up, use a pair of pliers, tap one side open a little bit, tap the other side open a little bit. But I'm just using the Hardy tool just to get mine started. And you want to bend this open into a Y shape. I'm going to straighten this one tine out. And then I'm going to flatten it down. I want it as flat as I can possibly get it, okay guys? I don't want it to be offset. Make it like a T now. I'll tap this other side down. Now at this point, you do not work your material anything other than hot. You will crack one of your tines. Now if you're using some thicker material to make your hot dog fork, you might draw out your tines a little bit. These I'm just going to roughly shape and round them out and put points on them because they're already the length I want them and they're already thin enough as I want them. Okay guys, so I'm going to work on my tip. You see that I've got the material straight up and down. Now I lay it down. All I'm doing is working two sides and making a rough point on this. I don't want it to be super sharp. One, especially if kids are using it, but if you're just stabbing hot dogs and marshmallows with this, it doesn't have to be super sharp. And now all I'm doing is just rounding out the edges. Flip it around, hammer on the other side. Just get it roughly rounded out till you get your tine like that, okay? Now if you're just tapping and rounding out, you can hammer on it while it's a little cold. You do not want to do any shaping or anything while it's cold. It'll break right here in this joint. Alright, let's work on the other side. Alright guys, so let's do the other side. it's a little awkward to hammer on, but once you get used to it, kind of moving it around, it gets not so bad, just because you're messing with such a long piece. And I have seen, if you are drawing, okay guys, so if you're drawing your tines out, you can work on one side however you need to, bend it back up, flip it around, then work on the other side till you get it to where you want it. And you can do it while you're doing the rounding process too, but try to get everything back to the T-shape and flat, like that right there, guys. All right, the next process is a little tricky if you don't have an anvil, but it is doable. All right guys, so this next part, like I was saying, is a little tricky if you don't have an anvil, but if you have a piece of pipe, clamp it in a vise, or even if you got two people working, have somebody hold it for you, hold the pipe, and you're gonna hammer your tines around it. And this will all, what this is gonna do is basically give your hot dog fork a little bit more shape and dimension, instead of just having two kind of straight tines. So I'm gonna go about halfway, and then I'm gonna hammer down. Now horns are not perfectly round, so I'm gonna flip it, get about as close as I can to where I was at, and then hammer the other side down. Now I'm gonna tap the edge right here, close it up some, close it up a tiny bit more, and there's your tines for your hot dog fork. See, there we go. Now you can sit and tweak these for a very long time and end up breaking one. I generally get it as close as I possibly can, and then tweak a tiny bit, and then just leave it alone, because you'll see the tiny imperfections, but no one else will. Now right here in the middle, because this is just a plain Jane bar, I'm going to put what's called a barrel twist in the center, roughly about right here. So I'm going to flatten out this section in the middle. All right guys, I forgot to film this part, so I'm just straightening everything up. You don't want to get this too thin either, but I only flattened about an inch, inch and a half of this material, and I went not super thin with it. So when I twist this up, it's going to make a little bit of a twist right here, and it just gives a little bit more dimension. You don't have to do it. If you're using square bar when you're making these, then you can put twists in various spots, backwards twists, and they look really good. Right there's our barrel twist, guys. Just something simple. I'm gonna go maybe one more revolution on it. Sorry, I made you seasick. I like that a little bit better right there. All right, guys, so let's get real for a minute and talk about what we learned today. Well, we made one of the funnest campfire tools you can make. You will be the talk of the campground when you bust these bad boys out, because most people have the little flimsy ones they get from the store. You're going to have one that you could probably fight off the zombie apocalypse with. So this is also one of the funnest items I liked making whenever we used to teach the Boy Scouts, because it was something easy for them to make, and it was something tangible for them that they could use for years. They could even pass it down to their kids could pass it down to their kids, and the stories behind it would probably grow. And I know y'all are just looking at it going, John, that's just a hot dog fork. But really, it's something handmade. And whenever you get something passed down to you that's handmade, that you can say, My dad made this. Your grandpa made this when he was your age in Boy Scouts. Kids get excited learning about those things, or at least I did. I'm going to talk about care real fast, guys, and then we're going to get into the meat and potatoes of what we did. You're going to care for this the same way you care for cast iron. So you're going to put it in a fire if it's rusty. Brush it off really good with a wire brush. If you need to use sandpaper, use a really fine sandpaper before you put it in the fire and clean all the excess surface rust off. And then you're going to put an oil on it, whatever kind of oil you want to use for your hot dog fork. I use a canola oil, but you can use any kind of oil that you would, same oil that you would use to take care of your cast iron. Let's get in the meat and the potatoes of it, guys. I don't know why I did that. Let's get in the meat and potatoes of it, guys. All right, so let's talk about your tines first. This joint right here will be an area that will break if you're not careful. If you work your material too cold, that section will snap. If it breaks, you've got two options, and this falls under the motto of the shop. There are no mistakes, it's a design change. You can either cut off both tines, sand it down where it broke so everything's clean, and re-flatten the area, recut, and make new tines. Or you can make it into a longer meat turner. And I have done this quite a few times. Where the area where it broke at, sand it down very well to where you know there's no cold shut. Then form this end into a bigger meat turner and brand it as a cast iron, or not cast iron, a campfire meat turner, so they can get away from the fire and still flip meat over in steaks if they're cooking on an open fire. We have done that a few times. I've done it quite a few times. And people like them being this long because if they are cooking over an open fire, they're not right up on it. They can actually get away from it and turn it, especially people that are nervous about cooking open fire. But that joint is one joint that will break super quick if you work your material anything cooler than an orange heat. You can tap a tiny bit just to straighten, but don't do any forging, don't do any bending, because it will break in that section. Also, I like using eye bolts on these because they hang very flat. And with the eye bolt, guys, put out more material than what you think. And I said this in the video and I'm going to reiterate it. These turn out for me about 1, 2, 3 times every 10 I make. Because I never put enough material over the edge and I always have to redo it. So, put your material over the edge and then go a little bit extra. You can always cut off excess or just make a bigger loop, but you want it to look right. These are very simple items, so any flaws or any major mess ups, people will notice them and it won't appeal to them. So you want to try to keep them as clean as possible. I'm going to talk a little more about the tines having a little bit of a mess up and people not noticing, but you will in just a minute. But remember, go over the edge of the anvil, bend it 90 degrees, and then come over to the horn. If you don't have a horn, you can use a piece of pipe. If you don't have access to either one, you can bend this over like you're making a J-hook, but make sure you angle up as you're going and really work on that, getting it in this uniform circle shape. Now you can close these up. I normally leave them open because people can take them and slide them just over a hook and it hooks in and they can take them off easier too. I also like my hot dog forks to sit flat when they're hanging. So as you can see, this is one straight line. I've seen where the tines are turned out like this. I don't like that for 2 reasons. One is when it's hanging up, if it's hanging against a tree, you have a sharp object pointing out. So if a kid runs by, they're more likely to get caught by it. 2, if it's laying on the ground, it lays completely flat. So if someone steps on it, it's not going to crush your tines down. It might bend them up a little bit, but it's not going to crush them in. And it's less likely to break. But those are my 2 main reasons why I like it to set flat, and it looks more uniform when it's sitting on a table. Now, let's talk about aesthetics and what people notice and what people don't. If your eye is off a little bit for your handle. No one will ever see that. You will. I notice my little flaws all the time. On your tines, if you look, this looks like this tine is wider than this tine. To me, this one has a little bit more of a bend in it. This one's a little sharper. No one will ever see that but you. You are the only one that will notice this because you will be your worst critic. Don't tweak too much, you can break it. And understand it's for people when they see it, they see that it's handmade. Especially blacksmithing, they expect for some reason some imperfections. I don't know why, but they do because they like it having that handmade look. So if one tine is bent in really far, they're going to see it. If it's off a little bit, like one's longer than the other, they will notice that. But just because one side might have a little bit more of a curve to it than the other, or this is a little straighter than this side, or whatever, people don't really notice those details. You will. So don't be super hard on yourself, and understand it doesn't have to be exactly perfect. You can make it as perfect as you want, but you'll tweak for 2 hours for somebody to come by and be like, oh, that looks cool, and never see anything that was imperfected on it. I also put some kind of twist or something in the material to make it to where it doesn't just look like a straight bar of steel. Now, sometimes I'll put a twist here and I'll put a twist up here just to break up how straight it is. I am very big on not super straight lines on some of my stuff because I don't want it to look factory made. Now, I want it to be straight so far as there's no bends in it, but I don't want it to be like just a straight bar all the way across on both sides. If you're trying to sell them, if you're just using them at your house for you, make them however you want to. Make them as fancy as you want, make them as simple as you want. But I always try to put something in it to show that it was more handmade than just this end and this end, that I took time to work on the inner material too. But guys, this is a very simple and fun project. This is a great project for kids. Like I said, when we taught the Boy Scouts, they were ages from like 9 or 10 all the way up to like 16, and everybody enjoyed it. But guys, that is the video. I hope you enjoyed it. I will see you on the next one. God bless. Keep hammering.